Here.
Thank you.
This meeting is being recorded.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pull up the agenda.
Make motion to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay. Now, are there any conflict of interest in the item that's on? See none, so we'll move on to correspondence. No correspondence, okay. Introductions?
Yes, Madam
Rick,
Chair,
yeah, you want to introduce?
I'd like to introduce Kathy Rosh as our project manager. As you will get to distributed already is a list of $30 million of capital projects. Safe to say that Needles hasn't done $30 million of capital projects in 3 decades. We're doing it within 18 to 24 months. Rainey and our staff have been very successful in getting rates. For example, 14.2 million for water alone. And to keep this short, we were able to attract the attention of a qualified project manager, that she will now take over the construction of all 30 things. Well, Rainey doubles back and identifies the next 10, 15, 20, 30 million of water. And for example, on a water at 14 million, that it's local, but customers aren't paying a dime. It's all 100% state funding. $7 million. 100% state funding. So, but Kathy has the makeup of hundreds of millions of dollars of projects she's been involved in. She comes to us directly from Havasu after 15 years in Fontana as their construction manager and 15 years previous to that at Havasu as a project manager. So Kathy has the experience and expertise and knowledge to make sure these things get done in budget and on time. So, Kathy.
Okay. Welcome, Kathy.
Welcome. And I've asked her to do this handout, but at your next meeting, she'll give you a project by project status.
So we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting and then you can, do a presentation on the projects. Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right.
Credentials.
Okay, as a courtesy to those in attendance, we would ask that cell phones be turned off or set in their silent mode. Thank you. Persons wishing to address the commissions on subjects other than those scheduled are requested to do so at this time. When addressing the commissioners, please come to the podium and give your name and address. For the record, in order to conduct a timely meeting, a 3-minute time limit per person has been established by Municipal Code Section 2-18. Amendments to California Government Code Section 54950 prohibit the commission from taking action on a specific item until it appears on the agenda. Regular item, provide staff direction to the draft for the food truck ordinance. Staff report.
Sure, Honorable Chair and Planning Commissioners, in front of you, we have a draft. We're trying to get how you feel about this and how we can move forward with this. Basically, we have a food truck ordinance. On the line is David Christie. He's the individual that helped draft this document with us. David, I'm going to go ahead and share the PowerPoint presentation on the screen and we'll take you through it. But just briefly, we got direction from the city council to move forward with drafting this ordinance. And so basically we're starting to see an abundance of food trucks and sidewalk vendors throughout the city. We've been engaged and contacted, and there are people chomping at the bit to move this forward. And we are very eager to get this moved forward. So at this point in time today, we're going to go through this ordinance. As you can see, there's a new drafted ordinance that is in front of you today, and David will go through some of those changes. They're minor changes. Nothing of major substance, but just clarification of the document that's in front of you. And so with that, I'm gonna let David Christie, who is our contract planner with MBI, move forward with his presentation. David, are you there? David, are you muted? David, you gotta unmute.
Yeah, he's muted.
Yeah, he's muted. David. All right, you're muted. We cannot hear you. So you're gonna go ahead and give the PowerPoint presentation through my phone until you find a way to unmute. And then so I've got it up on the screen, as you can see. So let's get this started.
Thank you.
Hey, David.
All right. So, as just a brief background, so it's known that members of the local community have expressed interest in operating food trucks, food trailers, and we've gotten separate calls for people who wish to operate a sidewalk vending cart within the city of Needles. And as we know, at present, the city of Needles does not allow for mobile food vending. So as such, we have drafted this mobile food vending ordinance to address food trucks, food trailers, and sidewalk vending throughout the city. This proposed ordinance would also be consistent with state law, SB 946, which decriminalized sidewalk vending throughout California. So it's just a few brief definitions. So mobile food vendor is defined in the ordinance as a person or business that operates or assists in the operation of a vending vehicle. A vending vehicle would be the actual motorized vehicle itself, which is accepting a device moved exclusively by human power, let's say a cart moved along by a bicycle. And this vehicle may be drawn or towed by a self-propelled motorized vehicle in the case of a food trailer from which food or food products are sold. So, the one we are probably most familiar with is the food truck, which is, again, a licensed motorized vehicle that is licensed by the California Department of Motor Vehicles, which is designed to sell food. There are also food trailers, which are legally attached trailers, which are pulled along by a truck that does serve in conjunction with that vehicle, food, beverages, or snacks. Sidewalk vending has been, again, decriminalized throughout California. That is a person who sells food or merchandise from a push cart, stand, display, pedal-driven cart, a wagon, or other non-motorized conveyance. And these are located on the sidewalk or another pedestrian path. So as a brief regulations that are within the ordinance, vehicles cannot operate within 10 feet of another entrance to another business. This requirement may be waived with written consent by the business owners in question. And all vehicles would have to operate within 200 feet from an available toilet and hand washing facility in order to operate. A few more regulations. Vehicles would be responsible for litter produced from its operations within 100 feet of the operating location. Vehicles would not be able to operate between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. And they would have to comply with the California Vehicle Code. They would have to have a valid county health permit, and they would be required to have a city business license. So to bring to have a City of Needles specific sidewalk vending regulations, it would be totally compliant with the state's current sidewalk vending regulations. At present, the California law prohibits the city from totally prohibiting stationary sidewalk vendors. So, but what the city may do is prohibit stationary vendors in areas that are zoned for residential. However, roaming sidewalk vendors would still be allowed to operate within residential zones within the city. So a few key operating procedures. Sidewalk vendors would not be able to operate within 100 feet of a farmer's market or another type of special event during that event's hours of operation. Within commercial zones, vendors would not be able to operate between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. And in residential zones, they would not be able to operate within the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. They would also need to have all the requisite state and county permits, as well as a city business license. Some final key points about the prohibited activities. They would not be able to sell, vendors would not be able to sell any adult-oriented material, cannabis, tobacco, or alcohol from the food truck, trailer, or a sidewalk vendor. Any noise or sound amplification, including music, would have to comply with all noise standards that the city uses. Such sound amplification would not be able to be operated within 500 feet of a hospital, school, or church. Food trucks and food trailers would not operate in residential zones, and no vendor would be able to operate on city-owned property without prior written consent from the city. And that is the brief overview of the current state of the mobile food vending ordinance. This is an informational session, so we would welcome all comments or thoughts that would help flesh out this ordinance and bring it to its final form.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Bob?
Yeah, on our list, see, it's under Exhibit A, second page, number 4. Says the
Who's
vending,
speaking in the microphone? I'm sorry, they can't hear you and
sorry.
no, you're fine.
So on the second page of Exhibit A, number 4, the vending machine shall be operated within 200 feet travel distance of an available toilet and hand washing facility when it is stopped to conduct business for more than a 1 hour period. He generalized and said it was just within, you got to just be within 200 feet. This says for 1 hour period, but I would comment that that hopefully that we might be able to add, unless the vending vehicle is so equipped with an approved toilet and hand washing system. They could have their own facility on the truck.
Or they would be required to rent a toilet and hand washing station, like from Danielle's, or
Yeah, or if they, yeah, if they, or if they themselves are
provide one.
providing one.
Yeah.
Is our goal to provide it for the public or for the person that's selling the food?
I think it's both.
So if it's on board on the truck or the RV or whatever it is, it's not likely they're gonna be letting them inside of
Wouldn't
it.
be I don't think
Wouldn't
it'd be a public
sanitary.
restroom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
I
good
mean,
question.
because
I thought it was
think,
just for the
you know,
vendor.
I was thinking it was for the public.
Oh.
So did I, and the county licensing is that you have to have a hand washing station and toilet available if you're doing events or you have food and stuff. So I'm guessing that's going to even also be covered under county. Patrick?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So David, the question was, why are they required to be within 200 feet of a toilet? And if they are required to, there wants to be a caveat regarding unless equipped with a toilet and washing station at the facility itself. So,
Well, who provides it? I guess
so,
who-
well, the intent is so these folks can go and wash their hands and be clean and be cleansed, like the actual operator themselves.
Uh-huh.
And so this is more for the operator. If they're at an event, then there's gonna be a toilet there, right? I mean, if it's, but this is, what we're seeing is, for instance, on River Road and Needles Highway, or K Street, and Needles Highway, there's a taco stand there on the corner. I think we've all seen that taco stand. And so the question is, okay, they're cooking, they're sweating, they're there for long periods of time. Are they being sanitary? And
But
so,
wouldn't that be required under the licensing?
Well, no, this is our ordinance, so this is what we are requiring them to do. Well, the San Bernardino County might have
Their
their set of
food, like,
regulations. Right, those might be theirs, but we've got these written in so that we could, you know, be sure that this is occurring. So, you know, if they brought their own, porta potty, I mean, that'd be fine. They're within the 200 feet and all that, so that'd be fine. They would have the facilities that they would need, but the idea is that to have these folks, be sanitary and, be able to use the restroom whenever they need to and be able to clean their hands and come back to work. Do you have any comments on that, David?
Yes, so we have the 200 feet distance in order to ensure that employees would have toilet and hand washing facilities, and that is also consistent with state law, which does require that a mobile food facility operates within 200 feet of an approved and readily available toilet and hand washing facility. Whenever the mobile food facility is operating and stopped for more than 1 hour.
So
Conducting
then
business.
you would determine that at the time of permitting. If they came to the city to ask for the permit, those are the things that you would be checking off.
So our code enforcement would drive around and we would make sure that they were within, if they were there for more than an hour, they're within the 200 feet of a bathroom. So it'd be putting our code enforcement officers to work. So we would give them this ordinance, give them the background, we'd educate them. We'd want to go through an education period and be like, these are our requirements. These are the county's requirements. This is how you get a hold of the county. This is what they're gonna want. And then we get them in touch with them. They go ahead and get their permit. They come back to the city. They show that they have these things. So they have the county health department license. Then they can go ahead and get a business license. And with the business license, we'll make sure to give them our
So
ordinance.
each time they come into town, just so I understand it correct, if they come into town, they don't have to apply for a permit then from the city.
It's a one-time business license.
Application
Yeah,
and
it's a
the
business license.
So then after that, it's up to the code enforcement to make sure they're up to par, essentially.
Correct. Yeah, we would go, madam.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. So we would go to the location and ensure that they are within a bathroom and just kind of touch base. I mean, we want to ensure to the public that these folks are sanitary, and this is just and the state is identified as a state law, so there's really no wiggle room there, but it would assure that say if they're at a park or if they were at they set up over by, on J Street in the parking lot there, obviously they need city's approval. But we would want to, and as long as it's out of a residential area, we'd be okay with them operating in the city. I mean, we're trying to promote business here. We are a lack of what has not been mentioned is that we lack restaurants. We are a food desert. And so, this would be an opportunity for us to provide other alternatives for folks, as long as they're meeting the regulations, right? To be able to have alternative places to eat. And met the state law,
Madam Chair,
and county law.
Yes, Barbara.
I need to suggest that we add some language that it makes it clear that this is for the use of the vendor and their employees. It's not referencing to it that they have to
Public.
have something available for the public. Because I thought they meant for the public, and so did Commissioner Ray. So can we just add, or maybe Dave can figure out how the best way is.
Well, when he mentioned employees, that kind of put it into the group of then it's for their use, so.
But it's
maybe-
not- But it's not in here.
Yeah, so
Understood.
something mentioned like employee for
Okay.
employees or something.
The intent, be,
Yes.
So you were mentioning that, that it's got to be within 200 feet. Okay, so if they're in, like they said, the corner of K Street and River, whatever it is there, and they're within 200 feet of a facility, okay, but it's a private facility, and are we gonna make sure that they have permission to use the facility inside of a business that they happen to be near? Because I guess what you're saying is that as long as you say, oh, there's one right there, but do they have permission to use it if it's not public?
right. Well, we could get in the weeds of that, but I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want to ensure that they are next to a bathroom. We could go double check if we really are, our code enforcement officer could do that to double check, but we would want to make sure that they are in line with the code. So yeah, we would double check that to ensure. If they had a, go ahead, David.
The precise language is it would need to be readily available. So if they would not have access to it, that would as
Yeah, it almost seems like needs to be on the,
the restroom facilities.
Yeah, Madam Chair, to me, that has to be in the permit application. So, and then that way it can be verified. Because I think that's the main problem with a lot of areas in Needles. I mean, where the parks are, we have readily available bathrooms if, with the cities, okay, but like out River Road, I saw a cart, it's the other day, and there's nothing with, around that. Maybe it was today. And I think there's going to be a lot of areas that it's not going to be accessed unless they bring it themselves. So I think it has to be stated on their permit application.
Yeah, as long as they move every hour,
That's right.
Well,
avoided it.
yeah, but
They come fr-
is
they
the
come
code
from-
enforcement going to have to chase them? That moving every hour is.
it could be quite time consuming for code enforcement. I think, but,
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird
I would assume that if they have a business, they're gonna be there every day. So, if you find out that, okay, they're staying there 2 hours and every day, I mean, it's not gonna, you're not gonna be able to catch them just the first time they do it, but I would imagine that they're gonna create a routine. And if their routine is not permittable under the following the guidelines, that's what we would be.
and you probably learn which ones are doing,
Yeah.
their business, I guess, but.
Well, we could also not take care of that if we don't allow the minimum times, then we're not chasing. If it's part of the state law, then that it has to be available, then it has to be supplied. And then we don't have to chase or worry, hey, they were there an hour and 15 minutes. To me, that's going to be a
You
problem.
can't keep up with that. I mean, code enforcement can't check them every hour.
No, that's what I'm agreeing. So to me, I think we forget the 1 hour thing. I don't think we should.
And just make
Have-
sure they
and-
have it provided.
Yeah, and it just has to be a part of their permit. If they say I'm only going to be there 1 hour, then to me, that's not something we should allow.
Particularly hand washing, if they're preparing food. I mean, I would think that you would need something close by.
Does the county obviously has restrictions or
They do for food.
what they gotta
license.
do for the county? It's not gonna be any different.
And there's state requirements. But I mean, the whole deal to a mobile food truck is that you're mobile. And so, they'd
drive
want to
it
move
back.
around. And so if if they have to identify exactly where they're gonna be, then that kind of defeats the purpose of who they are as a business, because his whole idea is a mobile. But look, our guys have chalk, our folks, our people have chalks and blue chalk, red chalk. And so if we gotta get into that business, then we'll regulate what we have to regulate. But at the end of the day, I mean, if they're within the 200 feet of a bathroom, it would be sufficient. And that river lot, eventually, there's gonna be a commercial business there someday. I mean, I'm not speaking, but we're working on a project there. I wouldn't put all the eggs in the basket for this project alone and those folks. But what I'm saying is, this might encourage businesses to open up as well, because they need, someone might start from the food truck to then go to to an actual store front. So we'll see. This is an opportunity for somebody to grow and economically be sound and go start as a food truck and then maybe open up as a restaurant in our city.
Bob?
Yeah, to Kevin's point, the 1 hour thing, the fact that they're mobile, because I've been in areas where the truck comes, services employees or whatever, that are around, and then they go and see that they can go to a public restroom or go to a gas station, whatever, because they're not there an hour, then they go to the next stop and that. So because they're mobile, that gives them that total flexibility of, taking care of their own business.
Right.
The same issue, the 1 hour limitation. If you take that off, meaning they have to provide show that they have access to available toilet and hand washing facilities from the moment they park, I think it might contradict or conflict with a mobile truck moving. If, let's say they go to one business for a lunch hour from 11 to 12, then they are able to move from 12 to 1 to another business, et cetera. Okay, so you can hit 3 or 4 businesses in town, at least through 11 to 2 or whatever it might be. You do it within your short time frames. As long as they're not there for more than 1 hour, they're not burdened by this toilet requirement, okay? So if we leave the 1 hour in there, that helps them be mobile
keep
for
moving.
less than an hour or so, or up to an hour, okay? If you take it out, then they're gonna be scrambling everywhere. Where are the bathrooms? We can't park there to service these employees for this
Yeah.
business. So I think leaving it in helps the vendor.
Mike?
I have a concern that, about where these, trucks are located, in non-operational hours. What I don't want to see, I think it's a great idea. I see the need and I hope it happens. What I don't want to see is, an individual that starts a business and ends up parking his food truck in the driveway next to my house. I've had that happen. And I don't think it's good for the neighbors. So I'm just concerned about where they're at in their non-vending hours. Is there a place, locale that they keep the trucks, or are they even allowed in? I know they're not allowed to vend in residential neighborhoods, but it's a real concern of mine that I have a giant food truck parked in the driveway next door to me, and I don't want to see that happen.
I'm not sure that there's a way to say they can't park there, but it'd be like if your neighbor had a semi truck or something and it becomes a nuisance and the neighborhood didn't like it, then I guess you would probably complain about it.
And
or-
if it's just a trailer or like,
Yeah.
where like on a pickup truck chassis, that's not a big deal. But the bigger ones where you actually go inside of the big, like the picture of it's a big giant box. I've seen it before and it's just not good for the neighborhood. I've lived through it before.
What I can say is there are limitations on parking on the street. You can only park your car on the street for 72 hours straight. So there would be, if you were parked there permanently, that would be a problem. That is within the code. But in terms of limiting somebody's right to be an entrepreneur and buy a vehicle like that, it's like, some of us have those, big, $500,000 trailers that live next to us. They park them, as long as they're parked on a driveway surface here in the city and they're not parked on their front yard or anything like that. We don't have anything within the code that would limit them to do that.
Yes.
If I can talk to Patrick about this, on our phone call with you, David, didn't you, and I may have misunderstood something because we were just doing the draft, but didn't you say that we're looking for places which are part of the identification of commissaries, and that would include a place that they are supposed to park their trucks? Did I misunderstand that? David there? Is David still on mute?
No, he's on the phone. So David, the question was by the commissioner, are they required the commissary, what's their role in terms of parking these, businesses at the site? What was it?
Sure. So it is state and county law that any food truck or food trailer that is operating within San Bernardino County does need to be associated with an approved commissary. And in this definition, a commissary is essentially a commercial kitchen, where after their operations for the day, the food truck would return there and the commissary would have facilities for food preparation, food storage, cleaning facilities for the utensils, grease and wastewater disposals. And commissaries can come in different shapes and sizes. Some commissaries are quite large. They can store multiple food trucks at the end of the day. Others are essentially associated with a restaurant's kitchen, that restaurant happens to have an agreement with this food truck, and the food truck is able to use the restaurant's facilities, at which point the food truck does probably then get stored somewhere else. So that is what, in terms of after the operation of a food truck, that would be the procedure any food truck operating in Needles would have to go through.
But it
We
could be
did
a
reach out to
private-
San Bernardino County,
if they-
just because it would be a new situation for them, given how remote Needle is compared to the rest of the incorporated cities in the county. We did confirm with them that an out-of-state commissary or commercial kitchen would be acceptable for something, say, in Nevada or Arizona, for a food truck to utilize those commercial kitchens in those two states that operate in Needles as well.
Could a commissary be a private home if that home is licensed as a commercial kitchen?
It would need to meet the standards of essentially cleaning areas, site plans. I do not know what type of house would have a full-on commercial kitchen, but if it did meet the standards, if it's a live-work unit, let's say in Bullhead City somewhere, it is possible.
What about
If
the senior center?
Well, the senior center, but then that's the city entity. And so,
Yeah.
But it's a commissary for the public.
I just want to remind the board that they would be, so this would be up to the operator to figure out how they would be going through this process. To be able to get in compliance, so the county would want them to be associated with the commissary. We do not currently have one in the city of Needles. Our understanding is, and David can correct me, but I believe there are some on the other side of the river where there are commissaries, but that doesn't mean somebody can't start their business. The old Lucy's is inhabitable. There's a parking lot there. Maybe someone will rent that out and do a commissary out of it. I mean, this is encouraging development and kind of new business opportunities. But at this point in time, the city does not have a commissary. And as David has stated, there would be a requirement that they go back to their commissary. Or they would want to get back to their commissary because that's where the kitchen is, that's where the food's gonna be stored. Those are the things that we're gonna want to see.
but that's part of their licensing.
Correct,
So it isn't anything that the city really needs to, as long as it's
a requirement.
a requirement, then
Right.
that's up to them to
So it's
find.
not in here, but
Yeah.
it does state that they have to follow all county, state laws.
But it still doesn't include the truck having to park at a commissary. They can still park their truck anywhere.
David, will you confirm whether they are required to park at the commissary or if they can park at their home?
They are required to return to the commissary after the end of their workday. It does not specify that that is where they are stored overnight, but I can double check and confirm with the county if that is a county specific regulation, or if the county simply requires they simply return to clean and prepare for the next day, essentially. We have a contact with the county and I will double check with them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll open up for public comment.
I'm Judy Thornton from 1835 South Drive in Mojave Valley. And as part of the Rodeo Association, we had a really hard time this past year in April getting food vendors. Everybody was coming out of COVID. A lot of people had shut down, blah, 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 blah. We tried to get some of the food trucks from across the river to come over here and not knowing exactly what the regulations or the rules are for out of state coming over here just for a few hours for 2 nights. How does this apply to that?
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead. It sounds like they're able to come from across the river.
Well, some of them wouldn't come because they don't have a California business license. But if you're only coming over, if you're coming to an event temporarily for 4 or 5 hours, 2 nights or 1 night, how do you do that?
David, how are special events handled in this ordinance? In terms of the food truck coming over, so the city of Needles in April has a rodeo that takes over or utilizes the rodeo grounds. And it's a beautiful thing. And so basically food vendors are invited to come over to the rodeo. But they are limited in the sense that it's their understanding. Oh, I guess the clarification is, are they able to come over and utilize a special event permit for the site? What are the requirements for food trucks if they're from out of state and they're coming for a couple hours?
And not licensed in
And
California
not
or
licensed
Needles.
in California or
whichever.
Needles. Would they be able to permit, would we encourage them to get a business license per the ordinance?
At the moment, the ordinance does not have a section for special events. If the city would want to make it easy for someone to come over to Arizona by either waiving the requirement for having to apply for a business license, if it is their understanding that that food truck will not operate in the city for just a day or two, that is something we can definitely add.
And not outside of that special event.
Essentially, yeah.
But before you, David, you said that they could come from Arizona and Nevada. Does that mean then that they would have to have a California license? Or are they still able to come over?
Or a California business license or a city business license. I know there's a lot of different.
Well, either, yeah. How could they, if they're Arizona or license or Arizona or Nevada food trucks? So they're not able to come into California unless they have a state or city license?
So the truck would need to comply with the California Vehicle Code. The license I believe we're talking about is that it would need to have a city business license.
Well, maybe not for special events, though. If we put in that they can come over as special event, they wouldn't necessarily need California business license.
Yes, and what we're talking about is, so what they would be required from the state is that basically for the state level, you would need to, a food truck would need to follow California Vehicle Code provisions, as well as you would need to have food labeling requirements established by the state of California. From the county the county level is where the commissary requirement comes in, and the business license would be issued by the city. So if the city would like to include a provision, or if it would encourage food trucks to come over from Arizona and Nevada for special events such as the rodeo, if for a special event, a city-sponsored event, that the city would waive that requirement for a business license, that is a provision we could add under special events.
Madam Chair.
So they would need the San Bernardino food licensing, but not a city.
Or health cards or that. But there are other, I'm using the rodeo as an example, but there are other events that we have. There have been a couple at the El Garces we would like to have had a food truck come over, but it's very vague. And that would be a special event.
Yeah, Madam Chair, so this is good because today's idea is to get input from the public. So David and I will do, and the new city planner starting on Monday, we will go and ask these tough questions and see what we can do to include these kind of scenarios that we have to.
And we need to make it simple so that
Special event
if they
clause.
come over.
We're gonna see, we're gonna see, as long as we're not blatantly, breaking state law or anything like that. We will definitely
That's
take a look at that.
important.
I mean, that's a starting point.
That's
So yeah,
important.
so we will definitely make sure that we are that we can look at a provision like that. And then
That would be excellent, because it's not just the rodeo, there's other special events that we had minimum amount of hours or.
And rentals at El Garces.
Right.
And it's not necessarily a city event. It could be a, you know, any kind of group event or a birthday party, or they may want a food cart.
But couldn't those all be on under an umbrella of special event?
Sure.
Madam Chair, yeah, we're gonna research
explore
that and
that.
we will bring that
Okay.
to you at your next
Huh?
meeting.
There's a term I'm looking for. I think it's reciprocity, different, with the different states. So wouldn't we be able to, use that sort of terminology or whatever? So as long as they can provide for the special event that they can show that they have a license where they operate, then we can basically use reciprocity to say, okay, you're legal there, so we'll allow you to be okay here. So that they don't have to have dual, you know, because they could spend a lot
It
of
wouldn't
money.
be
to
worth
get
it too. Yeah.
Probably a special provision because we are a rural community.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of other things that can come in for them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
so we
bored.
can probably use that. Barbara.
I'm still gonna be
Although-
heard. I'm hanging in there.
Actually, we're on the public comment yet, but I'll let you
Oh, so
ask
you're gonna
one
let everybody else
question.
talk except me.
I'll let you ask one question and then I'll go back to public comment. Then we'll come back
The
to us.
question I have when you do the project is, our health and safety code regulations in California are a lot stronger than
Mhm.
any other state in the union. So if you have health and safety issues and you have bad meat hit a rodeo in the tacos and a bunch of people get sick and that truck is from Arizona, we are responsible, okay? So in allowing reciprocity by reciprocating to the other state so they can come in here, that would be my major question. Where is that truck from?
But wouldn't that fall on the vendor?
I don't care. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to
Well-
get off of it.
I'm thinking lawsuit. All right, any other public comment? I see none, so I'll come back to, I'm sorry. Oh,
Add a
Patrick,
comment to
yes,
that.
sorry.
So I've assisted at the rodeo grounds and I have the best job at the rodeo grounds. I do the back gate. I let all the VIP in and all these different things. Guess what? I also let in the Department of Public Health because they like to show up to these events every year.
Yeah,
So
they
we-
do.
What
They
we
do.
want to make sure is that whatever we adopt here is okay with them and we're gonna work with them. They've already said they'll accept commissaries in Arizona and in different states. So we have a really good relationship with them. We're gonna work with them to see how because the last thing I want them to do is show up and then all of a sudden get Judy on the line. You know, hey Judy, they're here, like we're.
And they are strict,
So-
because I remember when we were doing the markets down at the park too, and they came by and everything had to be packaged, and I mean, they have very specific rules, so.
Right, so we'll work
We have to
closely.
comply, however that, but it would be nice to simplify it so that they can come over for these things, because I think too, it's needed. All right, any other questions from, you asked your last question? Okay, very good. If there are no other questions or comments, I would ask for a motion to approve,
I'll make a motion.
probably with some of the changes. Well,
Well,
no, actually, I'm gonna take that back because we actually need some other things explored before we go through with this, especially on the special events and some of the make sure the water, the sanitizing is in there correctly. So do you want to bring it back? Is that,
Yeah, our intent was just to get feedback from the
Okay,
public and
because I
from the
think it
board
was an
tonight to
action,
see
but
how you felt about it, and we're just gonna bring it back to your next, our intent is to bring it to the 5th meeting. But if it's not the 5th, it'll be the one right after that.
okay,
I
Yeah.
make a motion to bring it back.
all right, second,
second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, we'll bring it back, and thank you.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that going, because now, start the fall, everything will be in motion for that.
So is that all fast enough? Or are we missing out here on events coming up? Like now when
Or we
the
do
council member mentioned getting this done immediately?
We can think of events to have now. We got something to eat.
let's make it easier. we want to do it sooner than the 5th, or you're not going to be ready before then anyway? Today's already the 20 something.
Yeah, we have to
Deal's
get it in
going
the
no-
paper, we have to do notice,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the 5th is gonna be our goal. I mean, there's, again, we have a really good relationship with the county. David will get on the phone with them tomorrow, start talking to them about a special event clause in here, to be able to move that forward, and then again, you'll have to vote. And there's some cleanup to be done on this document, but, this will be in front of you as a ordinance to vote on, to recommend to the city council, and our goal is to get it to you on the 5th.
Okay, perfect. There was given to us for capital improvement projects. There's a list that Kathy's been working on. Looks like you've been pretty busy. And it's not an agenda item, so we really can't discuss it or spend too much time on it. But if Kathy, if you want to just, there's any particular things you want to bring up or go over them, or we're going to plan to put this on the agenda, the next meeting also, so she can give a presentation on each of the projects. So speak more about it. Yeah, but this was something we felt was important to at least hand out to the commissioners, and then that way we can have questions and so forth ready too for your presentation. We'll make it an agenda.
One or two of them.
Yeah, well, yes, to look at all of them. But yeah, then we'll put that on the agenda for next time, and you can give a presentation in depth on it.
You better beat the next meeting.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Are there any board requests? We'll start with Mike.
I haven't.
Done? Okay, Barbara.
Well, I'd like to mention something about food.
Okay.
Unusual topic for tonight. I forgot the name of it. Bud's Eatery, I think right across from Panda. Okay. They're gonna start they told me twice now. I've been in there twice asking, maybe 3 times. Start serving food, sandwiches, October 1, they said. And I drove by there before the meeting today, and it looked like they were already open, but maybe not quite. You can't tell from the outside, but they've added signage, and whatever else is up there is more inviting to come in for it as an eatery. And over there is cannabis. I'm not saying they're not doing both in the same place. I forgot what we approved, but I'm looking for food. Okay, so I'm going there for sandwiches, but I just thought I'd mention that in case anybody was looking for sandwiches.
Good. Okay, Bob?
Thank you.
I had a question. On that property down on K Street across from Doc's greenhouse, it's, there's a fence around it and it's for sale. That's where the gentleman was approved to put a sign, correct? Is that not going through, or?
Yes, so, Jeff West is the gentleman's name, and Jeff West has been waiting very patiently. We started with him, maybe 6 months ago to get him a tentative parcel map. And so that will be coming to you as well in October, probably November. But basically, to answer your question, yes, it's moving forward. He's trying to find somebody to purchase the commercial lot that's part of that development, but it's 60, it's gonna be 60 units on the north side and south side of River Road. So, and basically it's, that's what's in front of you folks pretty soon. He's really hot and heavy to move this forward. He's in the secret process right now. And so basically.
So he's still gonna do the signage.
Yes, he's waiting, he's spending $10,000 a month having it in storage until he gets tentative approval, because he wants at least to get reassured that this is moving forward. And so then he's gonna put up the sign and put the advertising on there, because as he mentioned during the meetings, was the major point he has the sign is to market the project. Right, so he stayed true to that.
Good, I
I'm
was
reminded, quickly that, he's spending $10,000 a month. So we really moved that forward as quick as
need
we
to get
could.
it, yeah.
We got him through it.
Definitely.
So that will be coming in the next, probably probably November. Depends on how long his CEQA process starts. So he hasn't started, he's almost there. So yes, it's moving forward.
Okay, good. Charles?
I have nothing.
Nothing? Kevin?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Well, I have the manager's report next, but Rick is not here. So is there anything you want to go over or?
Yeah, so basically, we are very excited. $2.5 billion worth of project is currently broken ground. Kathy's leading the pavement management project that's occurring off of Acoma in that part of town. So all those streets are being repaved and grind. So new pavement, Rick loves the new pavement, so we're really excited about that. There was a storm a couple weeks ago that really hit the city. We were only out for about 90 minutes. If you looked across the river, everybody else was out. So Rick was actually on the way back from his football game. He'd flown to Georgia. And, anyways, he had a fun time, more or less. But basically, he came back and he saw that Needles was the city that had their lights on, as opposed to the Walmart and the Target.
We were all
So-
holding our phones up with the flashlight.
And so we did reach out for mutual aid to assist and help our brotherly folks on the other side of the river. So we did reach out. So that was something that we're very excited about. I do want to report that the council at the last city council adopted the housing element. So remember that came to you folks. We made the changes, got it to the state. We are one of 4 in the county that have our housing element approved, which is exciting, which is a big deal. And then, so 1 of 4 and then of the 24. So, just wrap your head around that. So a little city like Needles, and we did it all through grant funds. We've done all of it through grant funding, not a dime of city dollars, to get this done. And, it's just a document about, well, it's like triple the size of this, but it's just a document. But at the end of the day, the state, as you remember, invited our mayor up to Sacramento to remind him, hey, you haven't done this in years. And so HCD's actually put their arms around us and said, look, a city that was once not compliant. And it's not that we didn't want to do it. There was just no resources and no expertise to get us past the finish line. And so with the assistance of grants and technical assistance from the state and MBI, David on the line was actually spearheaded the project. And so we've gotten that across the board. And in February, January, February, you'll be seeing the general plan and the land use element piece with the transportation element. That's going to be coming forward as well. So we'll start doing some public hearings. That's currently in CEQA. And again, that's $400,000 of the grants, all funded by, well, there was a match piece. So I got 43,000 of sweat equity put into it with our staff. But other than that, it's all funded by grants. And so when 1986, before I was even introduced to the council, my first day here, November, I think it was like November 15th or 16th, Clayton Hazelwood actually called me out of the, he said, you tell me about your general plan. And he didn't even know well, he knew who I was, but I wasn't even, I haven't even been introduced to the council yet. So it was a good opportunity. I'm very proud of the work that's been done when Cindy's gone now, but we've all worked really hard to bring our document up to speed. 1986 is a long time ago.
I forgot to mention something about the planning commission meeting. I wasn't totally prepared to do anything like that tonight, but these are just some documents that these were the worksheets from the PowerPoint. You probably recognize
yeah.
PowerPoint chain sheets, what they look like when you're in a seminar. And I went with the planning commissioner staff leader, community services director, Patrick Martinez. Stepped out, this was an all-day meeting in Rancho Cucamonga a couple weeks ago, and stepped out of the room to do a little bit of work. And in that moment, I stepped out. We got a standing ovation for what he's talking about right now. For all the work, there were a lot of state employees, there are state representatives there, the experts, people that are doing our general plan revisions, the people that helped do the housing amendment element that we just approved through city council. The work involved is all these meetings that we've had in the city where they notify us that they're going to have a meeting and what do you want? What does everybody in the city want in this location or that location for land use and whatnot? All of that was for this housing element. He got a standing ovation and I'm out front. I did. And we were the two city representatives. So anyway.
It's a lot of
it-
work and a lot of money.
Yeah, and I asked around the table and we had, I don't know how many, few hundred
Mhm.
there, lots of cities represented. Not just in San Bernardino County, but other counties as well, including San Diego. There were a couple out of LA County and whatnot. And I just asked around the table in the general area, did you get your housing element done yet? You could tell they had no idea what I was talking about,
Mhm,
which he had just gotten
mhm.
an applause for. And
Yeah, that's
so,
great.
and some of them said, we're just starting it. Okay, so being one of 4 out of 24
And it's a
cities
requirement.
in the county, oh, it's mandatory.
Mhm.
Well, and the state, the woman, what's her name? A print that implements state, what's her name?
Sohab?
Sohab?
ACD, yeah, Sohab.
Incredible woman. She implements applying state funding or helping cities get the funding and implement the elements and get you going. She engineers all of that from over here, from the state to us. Okay, she's in the middle. And she was just an incredible woman. She's the one that was instrumental in getting our funding, right? And just a wonderful one. I would just this little tiny petite little thing. And all of these people that spoke were very bright and very good in their fields.
Yeah, I'm
I
glad you
was-
brought that up. I meant to have actually give a report on that.
Mhm.
I'm glad you went. So,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
well,
really
these
good.
are all my notes if you want me to make
Yeah.
all my notes through the PowerPoint presentation, but they gave us an email. We all got a copy of it. And one of the attachments is here's a little rugged being through the baggage in the car in my house, Planning Commissioner Handbook. Am I the only one that got that? 'Cause
No,
I asked
we
for it.
got it.
We all
We
get
got
it? Okay, because Rick said or you'd said you were gonna give one to everybody.
Right.
So that was one item made available.
Yeah, that was
What?
nice.
I didn't get one.
You didn't get one?
Oh,
It's on my desk. I have, yeah.
And so all these different areas, when I saw this is available even, because I've been asking for as long as I've been a planning commissioner.
I know,
for
there
a
has never been
handbook,
anything.
And
yeah.
we didn't have one. So now we have one. It's in a binder that thick. I haven't started
Yeah,
reading it
it's
yet.
good for resource, so you'll have to get
It's
one.
sitting there, but there,
Okay.
this was
Almost done.
incredible. This whole seminar was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for reporting.
Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that. It
And
was,
so was Mr. Martinez.
it was a
job.
great opportunity. We're very happy, very thankful. So I just want to add, finally, I have a full staff. So we've got a building official now who's was the number 2 in Bullhead. We were able to pull him over here, so that's really exciting. So we got a new building official. We have a new city planner who was also the city planner of Bullhead. And then our permit tech's actually from Bullhead too. So we're very thankful for Bullhead that he's really done a good job training folks. So they all come over to meals and Lake Havasu as well. We're very thankful for Kathy. All right, and the PC workshop, you already talked about that. So if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me and Rick, or Rick and I. That concludes my.
The only other thing I wanted to just bring up is that there's a candidate forum tomorrow night here at 6 o'clock for the election. And also to remind everybody to go out and promote the measure that's on the ballot for our short-term rental. Because we're hoping to get that passed as for revenue to the city. Plus, it's a fair tax. So that people understand it's not a new tax, it's a fair tax for the people that have not paid taxes. And they should be paying taxes on their rentals like the hotels. So it's to bring that up to be fair with everyone that's renting. And also, it's very important for the citizens to know that puts code enforcement and the city in a better position to help them out for people parking in front of their driveways, too many cars on personal property, and the limiting how many people are in a rental property. Because the VRBOs or the rentals oftentimes will have 20, 30 people in a house and kind of take over the neighborhood. So I know no one likes to vote yes on taxes, but I think this is a really important one for the city.
Well, if I can
So,
add, this is a
and-
pass-through too. The
Yeah.
Airbnb
Correct.
companies
Mhm.
collect it from the renter
Yeah,
and it passes through to the city. So
Mhm.
the person that owns the home
doesn't have
pay.
to do,
It's the
yeah.
renter to the city. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
if physically that's how the money is obtained.
Mhm.
But it's no extra burden on the
On the
owner.
owner, right. Yeah, good point. I forgot.
Yeah, residents do not pay the tax. That is correct.
Correct. So anyway, that's all I have. So that I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
That's second.
All right, I guess everybody's in.
I'm gonna turn off the recording. Thank you, everybody who joined the phone call.
Thank you. Say thanks to Rick.